Good morning. Good morning. It's so lovely to hear so many happy voices in this room. Whether you are here in person or joining us from home, it's wonderful to be here together. My name is Marjorie Wormser. I'm helping Joan Belz and Kate Saw and others lead this morning's service while Reverend Sasha is away from the pulpit. As we settle in for the hour, let's pause to center our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning. Is that working? Good morning. My name is Joan Belz. A few months ago, when it became apparent to us that the situation for our immigrant community was going from bad to desperate, Kate and I really felt the need to do something, to take some action, and to live our second UU principle of promoting compassion and justice and equity. And so was born this service. Today you will meet some immigrants and they will tell you their story, and you will hear from one of our own members who has worked tirelessly with immigrants. But we will begin with the words of Omar el-Akkad. The moral component of history, the most necessary component, is simply a single question, asked over and over again. When it mattered, who sided with justice and who sided with power? What makes moments such as this one so dangerous, so clarifying, is that one way or another, everyone is forced to answer. And so, my friends, let us worship together.
Please pardon that pause. Lighting the charger candle is something that usually happens before the service begins, but it's been a busy morning. So it's time for us to light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Amy G.S.A. Brooks. Even as the days grow shorter and our homes shrink smaller and our wicks burn lower, and our will to endure flickers, we light this chalice to kindle a flame of warmth as a reminder of the connection that draws us into a community that opens us up. In gratitude for the breath in our lungs and the love in our hearts, and for the gift of this day alive. And now please stand as you're able for our affirmation by James Vila Blake, which are on the screen here. Please repeat after me. Love is the spirit of this fellowship. Love is the spirit of this fellowship. And service is its law. And service is its law. This is our great covenant. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace. To dwell together in peace. To seek the truth in love. To seek the truth in love. And to help one another. Please, let's stay standing for our opening hymn, number 181, No Matter If You Live Now, Far, or Near. The words are on the screen and also in your gray hymnal. So good morning and welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Welcome especially to any newcomers, returning members, and anyone who joined us online today. If you are tuning in live on YouTube or Facebook, please say hi in the chat or the comments. We are delighted to have you with us. We are a community of many ages, and we all worship together. You can join us in many ways on Sundays, including online, as well as here in the sanctuary, or from one of the many rooms in our building where we live stream the service. In particular, I'd like to draw your attention to the family room for families with little ones, which is located out these doors and immediately to the right. The family room is especially great if you need a place to talk, soothe an upset infant, get the wiggles out. And our service is live streamed there, so you won't miss a thing. Youth of all ages are always welcome in our services. We also offer childcare as an additional option for families with small children ages 9 months to 5 years. So parents, if you find yourself in need of childcare at any point during this service today, please bring your little one to room 201, which is at the top of the stairs. Again, welcome. We are so glad you're here today.
I've never used one of these. Press it.
It's on.
This is on? Yes. Okay. We don't have any children, I don't believe, but no. Young at heart, if anyone. But, okay, I'm going to try to manage this and the book. This is a book called I'm New Here, and it's about Jin, Maria, and Fatima. And it's written for children, but it's also written by somebody who, we do have the young at heart. It's written by somebody who was, had experience, the author, a great deal of experience. She lived in Korea even though she was from New Hampshire, and she went to an international school. So she learned a great deal about what it's like to be new. So I'm new here, and the class introduces Maria. Class, this is Maria. And then Jin. Boys and girls, please welcome Jin. I am new here, and we have a new student, everyone. Her name is Fatima. Now, yeah, I think that might be our best bet.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I can look up there too. I know this story pretty well. Okay. Okay, so back home I knew the language, and you can see the children saying vamos, orale, vamos, in Spanish in Guatemala. I knew the language. My friends and I talked all day long, and our voices flowed like water and flew between us like birds. And here there are new words. I can't understand them. The sounds are strange to my ears. And what you see there is a phonetic rendition of the words a child might hear in a playground. You know, my turn, heads up, throw it here, me too, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So it's, you know, not understandable to Maria at all. And then as Jin sees, there are new letters. They lie on the page like scribbles and scratches, and all the windows and doors are shut tight. And I had occasion to look at the Korean alphabet, reading this, and their alphabet is different for sure. Back home, I was part of the class. I knew just what to do. And there, Fatima, you can see her there. I fit in like one of the stars in the night sky. Here, there are new ways. I cannot see the patterns. I cannot find my place. And the teacher is saying to the class, what could you draw to show how we live in our community? This is an understanding teacher. Here I am alone. Here I am confused. And that's Jen. Here I am sad. These are completely natural. And this is Maria, and she's trying to say, what do you think she's trying to say? Soccer, yes. I say the words again and again. They feel like rocks in my mouth. My tongue twists and stumbles on their edges. But things are getting better now. One day, I try the words. They do not flow or fly freely, but someone understands. She says, I can play soccer. And he says, sure. And of course, she's from Guatemala. She can play soccer. And so she's finding new friends, and they are finding me. She's on our team. And she says, I got it. Now Jin says, I write the letters over and over. I stare at the words. I look for a way to open them. And he speaks to a friend. How to spell cloud, and his friend spells it for him, C-L-O-U-D. He's learning them, and his friend is learning from him. This is cloud in Korean. And his friend says, cool. And he begins doing some writing because he's got ideas. I watch the new ways more and more. I try to see the patterns. I am scared I will make a mistake. This is Fatima speaking. One day I try taking part. My knees tremble, my heart pounds, but my teacher smiles. I will show my picture. She's not sure, but she's doing it. I'm sharing with others, and they are sharing with me. Fatima, you're a really good artist. And she's prolific also. Here, there are new beginnings. And you see them, friends, and you see them, and there is a place for me. And that's pretty much the end of our story, except I wanted to say I discovered that the woman who wrote the book, she is an illustrator also, started a foundation, a nonprofit. She's a co-founder of a nonprofit in Portland, Maine, and they work on developing children's literature to welcome children from all over the world, in all places, especially the United States. And when you think of Maine, you might think of, I won't say. But I looked online at the people in this foundation, and it was a beautiful group of diverse people. So, thank you.
It is now time for milestones and passages. This is the time in the service when we share deeply important personal milestones that have happened during the week. Sometimes we come to this sacred place with much on our hearts. Life is like a beautiful rose with sweetness and softness. Know that we are your community, and if you have a serious need or have suffered a personal tragedy, we want to help. And if you have a new member in your family or other personal joy, we are eager for the chance to celebrate with you. So whatever your age and whatever roses and thorns of your life, you can share them in our service by filling out a milestones and passage form online before 9 a.m., and the form can be found on our website. We also have forms located on the table on your way into the sanctuary. And this morning's milestone so far, unless there are others I'm unaware of, is please, and I forgot to mention that after we announce a milestone and passage, we ask that you say, we hold you in our hearts, okay? So longtime member John Franklin will have surgery tomorrow, July 14th. Please keep him in your thoughts. Cards are welcome. John's address is available on the chalice table near the chalice, and you can check that after the service. So, John, we hold you in our hearts. We are happy when you feel comfortable to tell of your personal joys and concerns, and we also recognize that some concerns may be too private to be shared at this time. Let us respect those needs and the ones we have heard in a few moments of silent meditation. And as we enter this silence, may we offer compassion for others as well as for ourselves. Let us be instruments of peace and hope in the world. O Spirit of life, known by many names, yet by no name fully known, we gather today with hopes and dreams, and also with fears and wounds. May we be reminded that all things come and go, that today's joys and today's sorrows will in time give way to those of tomorrow. And those of us who have strength to share today, let's do so while we can. And those of us who are in need, let's allow ourselves to receive, for tomorrow those roles might well be reversed. And our next song will be Called to Love by Darrell and Mary Courtley. And you will be there. Thank you.
So about a half a dozen years ago, for the service auction, I offered to write a song, and Kathy Cacavelli won the auction, and we decided that it would be a song about UUA principles. So this is Called to Love.
We are on a journey, we're traveling to wholeness, we're following the pathways of those who came before us. We are called to justice, freedom, equality, truth, compassion, and always love. Where routes were misdirected and paths were not completed, new roads must be erected, old obstacles defeated. We are called to justice, freedom, equality, truth, compassion, and always love.
We're widening our highway on our journey to completeness. Our tunnels cut through hatred, our bridges span between us.
We are called to justice, freedom, equality, truth, compassion, and always love. Together we love stronger, together we love sooner, together we love longer, together we love truer. We are called to justice, freedom, equality,
Good morning. My name is Bob Mayans, and I was asked to talk about my experiences visiting detained immigrants in prison. So from 2017 till the end of the pandemic, I volunteered for First Friends of New York and New Jersey, and I would regularly visit detainees at the Hudson County Correctional Facility. These individuals were either seeking asylum and waiting for approval, or were undocumented individuals and fighting deportation. We would meet and talk in semi-privacy for half an hour for each visit. As a First Friends volunteer, we did not handle any of the casework, but mostly offered a listening ear. We would stay with the person until he or she was released, deported, or transferred to another facility. The first man that I visited was a construction worker from El Salvador who lived in this country for about 15 years. And when he was promoted at a new job, a rival for the job reported him to ICE, and he was arrested and fighting deportation. We would meet and talk, and we developed a pretty good connection. And for instance, he asked me to send a birthday card to his 8-year-old son. During these visits, they're very regulated, but they were being delayed more and more, half an hour, an hour and a half. I asked what was going on, and the guard, well, what I was told was that there was no reason. The guard was just trying to see if I would leave. Eventually, the guard said that the person didn't want any more visitors. I was assigned to a different person. Of course, I learned later that that was not true, and the guard was later arrested for drug trafficking at the facility. Another person who I visited for over a year was a Jamaican man from Queens in his late 20s. Although Jamaican, he hadn't been in Jamaica since he was 2 years old. In his teens, he was involved with a gang, and he had a felony conviction for auto theft. Although he was out of that life for over 10 years, he was scheduled for deportation to Jamaica. He was a very popular person with the younger, he's a very friendly man. One time when I was talking with him, he was reminiscing about cooking Sunday dinners with his mother. And I asked what was he eating now, and he told me it was a thin slice of bologna every day for lunch and a thick slice of bologna every day for dinner. And I'm afraid to say my first reaction was just to laugh. I couldn't believe this. After that, I started to put some money in the commissary account on each visit so he could purchase these packets of rice that you could supplement your meals. He told me that someone had lifted an onion from the prison kitchen and sold it for $12. People were just desperate for flavor. Another absurdity was that his public defender had suggested to him that could he pretend to be gay. In Jamaica, homosexuality is even more of a stigma than in the United States, and that could be something that he could bring to the judge as a mitigating circumstance. Of course, he said he couldn't do that. I wanted to help him get started in Jamaica, but over 2 days he was suddenly transferred to Louisiana and deported, and I lost touch with him. Another thing, some volunteers for First Friends would offer overnight accommodations for released prisoners. So we would pick them up at the prison at night and then drive them to a bus or train station in the morning, the next morning. The first time my wife and I did this, of course we agreed to it, but we had some second thoughts. Is it wise or safe to have someone that we don't know overnight in our house? So the first person who we had over was a 18-year-old man from Guatemala who spoke no English and very little Spanish. He spoke a native language. My wife told me privately, my wife was a pediatric nurse for 30 years, that he was lying about his age, that he couldn't be more than 16 years old. and he was probably pretending to be 18 so they could avoid the regulations for child detainees. So we gave him some food and money, put him on the bus, and a very frightened individual who was heading to Houston to meet a relative. I have a lot more stories that I could say, but I just wanted to make 2 points. The first point is the language that I hear about immigration. In media, newspapers, politicians, everything, the language seems to have nothing to do with the realities that I have seen. The cruelties, the arbitrariness, petty humiliations. And the second thing is that, of course, as we all know, the problem has gotten desperately worse, and that I say in all humility, we have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
We've come now to the time in our service each Sunday when we pause to offer our gifts of financial support to this congregation. Your donations make all that we do here together possible and also help make our wider community a better place. That's because each Sunday we give at least half of the money collected to an organization that is doing good work to advance our Unitarian Universalist values of love, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependency, and generosity in a world that hungers for them now more than ever. So today's offering will be split 50-50 with Refugee Assistance Morris Partners, sometimes known as RAMP. You can text 73256 with keyword MUUF, or go to muff.org/offering. And you can give, and you may also give in our collection plate or by following instructions on your printed order of service and shown on the screen. Thank you in advance for your generosity. Every bit counts. Thank you.
Is this working? Hello? Hello? Yes? Okay. The May 14th issue of the New York Times Magazine section was called The Happiness Issue. You may not be surprised to learn that the main component in a sense of well-being and happiness is being part of a long-term happy marriage. But take heart, that's not in the cards for all of us. Equally important in a sense of well-being and happiness is being part of a community, having a lot of interactions with others, doing volunteer work, being part of an organization. And here you are, part of MUF. I tell you this as I make the case for why volunteering, especially with immigrants, is important. One, it will make you happier. Second, it will help somebody else. And also, our country needs immigrants. You know this. You know that we have a falling birth rate. You know that there are 10,000 people, 10,000 baby boomers who retire every day. We need new young workers who will pay taxes, who will take jobs, who will buy our goods and services, and who support our universities. There are some 422,000 students from India in our universities, and some 270,000 students from China. They pay full freight. Can you imagine what your children and your grandchildren's tuition would be without them enrolled in our schools? Today we have members of our community who come from foreign countries, and they'll tell us why they came and how they came. You will meet Carol Ruiz, who many of you know because Carol is a member here. I first encountered Carol at a meeting at the county library where an immigration issue was being discussed. And Carol, as a lawyer for the Wind of the Spirit, was there asking tough questions. And the mayor of Morristown and the new sheriff were not giving good answers. Carol would not let up. She kept on after them. She was determined to make a point. And I thought to myself, she's making a spectacle of herself. But when I talked to our minister later, she said, that's what you have to do, to get in the paper, to be recognized, to get action. And since then, I have come across Carol in other venues, and she does the same thing. She does not take no for an answer. She stands up for the rights of the Hispanic immigrants. And Carol is a hero. Carol, originally from Colombia, is now the immigration justice advocate with Wind of the Spirit, as well as the assistant public defender of mental health advocacy of the New Jersey Office of Public Defender. And until 24 hours ago, you would have seen sitting up here my friend Carmen. Carmen is here absolutely legally, but our government doesn't follow laws anymore. Churches aren't sanctuaries. And we in the fellowship began to worry that if Carmen was here and it was recorded, that she might be in danger. That's the world we live in. So we asked Carmen if it would be all right with her if Kate stood in for her. So when I interview, you will pretend that this is Carmen, and she is giving her answers. I want to tell you something about Carmen. I met her about 10 years ago through the fellowship. She was asking for a volunteer tutor for her daughter. And 7 years old, that was the age I loved to work with, so I signed up. And for years, I tutored her until her math skills exceeded mine, and then we stopped tutoring. But we always kept in touch. A couple of years ago, Carmen realized that she could not stay in the same housing situation she had been in. She had a teenage daughter, a teenage son, and herself, and they were living in one room, not a one-room apartment, one room in a boarding house. This had to change. But in order to make that change, she needed a better paying job. The job she wound up getting was with computers, and Carmen had no experience with computers at all. Every day she was supposed to earn while she learned. The stress was enormous, and when I'd call her up to see how she was doing, she'd say, "This is very hard, but I have to do it." And she did it. She did that job until she saved enough money to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. She paid that real estate agent's fee, she paid that first month's rent, she paid that security deposit, and she moved into an apartment. She did all this while she was a single mother of 2 teenage children. To me, Carmen is quite a hero. Before I asked them to tell their stories, Kate, who is standing in for Carmen, wants to tell you a little bit also about the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Would you sit there so you face the audience? Thank you. Okay.
As Joan said, our service today has not turned out exactly as we had planned. Carmen's not here with us. We wanted to shine a light on these two immigrant stories to help people understand the difficulties and challenges that people like Carol and Carmen have endured to be in this country and how far they have come from those treacherous beginnings. But now, we see that there's another important story here too, and that is the reality of the current dangers and fears that they face and the reality that we cannot protect them. In Trump's first term, schools and churches were considered places of sanctuary that ICE would not enter, but now those protections no longer exist. Our world today that warrants these considerations is hardly recognizable to us, but here we are. And this will be Carmen's story, and I consider it a privilege to share it with you.
I'm going to ask our guests 3 questions, and the first is... Sorry. I'm going to ask our guests 3 questions, and the first is, why did you come here? So Carol, could you tell us your story first, please?
Thank you, Joan. It's the story of my family. I was 7 years old when I arrived in New Jersey, so I didn't decide to come. My family and I are originally from Colombia in South America, and Colombia at the time was still in the throes of a civil war. We were in civil war for about 60 years. That civil war was between socialists eager for the rights to be respected of our Afro-Colombian community, of the indigenous community, of farmers, and the opposition was the Colombian government funded by the US government, who funded paramilitary forces. My family specifically weren't victims of the Civil War as it fits within United States asylum law. My grandfather's land was taken, and he was attacked by both the socialist and the right-wing paramilitary forces, and my father was stabbed in violence in the streets, but because our government wasn't actively persecuting us, we wouldn't qualify for asylum. So if you ask my father, he will tell you he left for economic reasons. He left first in 1984 and worked for a year, 3 jobs. He lived eating out of tuna cans and sleeping in a car because he needed to save enough money to get my mother, my then 5-year-old sister, and I across the border safer than the way that he came across the border. He had to cross through the ocean in San Diego. We crossed safer, if you can call it safer, because when we crossed, we also had the help of coyotes, coyotes, and these are people that then in the 80s helped you cross. They still exist now, but it's more violent and there's more extortion of it now. So when we crossed, we landed in Mexico on September 19, 1985, the same day of one of Mexico's worst, if not the worst, earthquakes in Mexico history. So literally landed in rubble. And this was before social media and even before cell phones and beepers. So our family, both in Colombia and my father here in the US, thought we died in the earthquake because the hotel where we were supposed to be staying was on the news, crumbled to the ground. Because of the earthquake, flights were detoured and delayed. But when we arrived, needing to eat, long story short, there was a gang member who was soliciting my mother for sex, and when she denied the request, He literally physically took my 5-year-old sister and was like, okay, I'll take her instead. This was at a bar restaurant, because this was the only place open and standing in the middle of an earthquake. My mother, who I tease about being a liar, a very good liar, convinced this man that she actually was interested, but not like that, like, can you buy me a drink first? So she asked the waitstaff to babysit my sister and I, and to get a bottle of tequila or rum or whatever it was. And the man, so excited, just went to get the bottle. And while he went to get the bottle, we ran out the door. He eventually ran after us, literally shooting at us. And we escaped into a hotel that was still standing across the street. And the hotel workers, like a cleaning lady, hid my sister and I in a laundry basket and threw us into the elevator with my mom. So we went up. Unbeknownst to us at the time, the bellhop at the hotel, as the gang member, his name was Aguila, we learned. He was a very powerful gang member. Aguila means eagle in English. So Aguila ran in, and the bellhop told him, oh, they kept going. So he told them that we ran into the courtyard, and we were upstairs. So that is why, and also how, we crossed the border.
Yes, thank you. It is a very powerful story. Thank you for sharing it with us. Kate, will you tell us about how Carmen came, why she came, please?
Sure. In Carmen's words, the reason I came to the United States was because I wanted a better life for not only myself, but my family back in Ecuador. In Ecuador, my education and job opportunities were low. That's why at age 17, after my dad got sick, I decided to emigrate to the United States. Financially, my family needed support as my parents had to sell their house, and I was willing to help. The trip would be hard because I would have to leave my family back home and head towards the unknown. But I was doing it for them. I didn't really know what to expect when I finally got here, but all I could think about was helping my family.
Thank you. Thank you. Carol, did you want to add anything to how you got here? If not, that's fine.
Yeah. So once we crossed into the United States without authorization, because we did not qualify for asylum or refugee status, once we got here, we lived here in Morristown on Abbott Street, and like Carmen's family, also in one room, not a one-bedroom apartment, one room. And in 1996, we were undocumented immigrants, unauthorized immigrants that whole time, starting in 1984 for my father and 85 for my sister and my mother and I. And there was no path to adjust our status, no path to citizenship for us. In 1996, the law got worse. President Clinton and Congress at that time passed IRERA, which still exists today, and it's an awful law that essentially takes away from newer immigrants the right to adjust our status in the way that European immigrants had those rights in the 1800s and 1900s. It was a backlash to the crowning jewel of the civil rights movement, the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965. So IRERA took away essentially the rights that the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965 had given, in this same retaliatory way that we are feeling now, that the Trump administration is even more oppressive than I think a lot of people realized. So because of that law in 1996, I would have been left completely without any opportunity to naturalize. And despite being only 18 at the time, I was dating a Puerto Rican man, boy, right, we're 18, and so we decided to get married so that I could adjust my status. We got married in February 1997. The law went into effect the summer of 1997. And so, but for this 18-year-old and his family being willing to marry me, I would be deported today, and could still, apparently, given the naturalization threats, because now somebody like me who is willing to do the work of immigration advocacy and justice could be considered a terrorist if the new executive orders pass the Supreme Court muster.
You may wonder why Carol is here, but Carmen is not. Carmen is not a citizen, although she's here legally. And Carol has been recorded and written about. She's known to the authorities. And we also said to her, do you feel uncomfortable being here? And as she said, they already know me. They know where to find me. Whereas Carmen did not have that same background. Kate, can you tell us how Carmen came here?
Sure. In Carmen's words, my journey began in my hometown, Cuenca, Ecuador. From there, I traveled to a nearby city where I would begin my 9 days at sea. It was initially supposed to be 7 days, but a plan fell through, and I, along with other immigrants, would spend an additional 2 days at sea, which was hard because to save resources, they turned the motor off, which made it harder to not get seasick. After those 2 extra days, I was picked up in speedboats and arrived on land. At the time, I had no idea where I was, but after passing a few cities, I realized I was in Mexico, heading toward the Mexico and Texas border. Getting to the border, me and the other immigrants with me would have to cross the Rio Bravo, Big River, which is notorious for being dangerous, as many have lost their lives. In fact, as we crossed it, we lost one of our own. After crossing the river, we would walk for 1 day. During this time, it was getting dark, when I and the other group encountered a snake on a tree that if the guide hadn't pushed me, it would have bitten me. After this encounter, the person that saved me wanted to stop walking in the night. I could only imagine how big this snake must have been in order for him to make this decision. Because of this incident, we lost some time, which would make us late in meeting other people who were supposed to give us a ride. Because we were late, we had to stay in the desert longer, and we began losing water and food. We spent 2 days without food and water and the sun beating on our faces, when by a miracle, we were found by the people who were supposed to give us a ride. I am very grateful for them because when they found us, I was already losing hope. Once in the car, they brought us to Houston, and from there to New York, and ever since, I have been living in New Jersey.
And my last question to our guests is there anything you'd like us to know about your goals in coming here, or what your challenges have been, or anything you'd like to tell us?
Every time this question is asked, right, it's a little different. I know that the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship is a community, as we heard in our songs and worship today, guided by love and justice, and that is much harder work, as we heard from Bob Mayans, right, than it sounds. And we don't all have to be the ones with the microphone, or the ones opening our homes, or the ones visiting detention centers. But we all do have to do something. We talk about genocide, and whether you're talking about genocide in Rwanda, or genocide in Germany, or genocide right here in the United States, the genocide that we committed against enslaved Africans here on this land, on this stolen land, the laws that we created post-slavery are the laws that the Nazis borrowed from. and are the laws that are being used now against immigrants. The Slave Fugitive Act, right? That's essentially the law that they're using to attack immigrant justice advocates, to attack people who are already naturalized. So if you don't already know about these laws and this history, learn it. If you do already know about it, share it with your family. That Trump-supporting uncle or grandparent or 20-year-old son who is a memnist, we have to have those conversations. Cutting off our loved ones because of political differences allows them to get in the silos further, pushes our young people to not vote at all so that someone like Trump can win. So just do something. And if you don't know what to do, I am sure that Joan Belz has a list.
Thank you, Carol. And Kate?
Sure. Carmen's answering the last question in this way. On the journey, I faced many challenges. Death, injury, and hunger were just a few of the things millions of immigrants like myself have experienced on the journey here. And once I arrived, more challenges came my way. The unfamiliarity of being in a new country all on my own, as well as the uncertainty of how long I'd be able to live here. The biggest challenge I face is knowing that at any moment, the life I've built in this country can be taken away. I understand the current fear of many immigrants of knowing that one day we can leave this country, but I know that there are many hardworking immigrants like me who came here and continue to be here for good and for honest work.
Thank you. When we had our rehearsal on Tuesday this past week, Carmen was sitting here in tears telling us that story. So thank you both for sharing those words with us. I hope these dramatic stories have moved you to learn more about the immigrant situation and to live your principles too. Carol has agreed to be at coffee hour after the service if you'd like to talk more with her. Please stand now as you're able to sing song number 1027, Cuando, Pobre, in your teal hymnal, and also the words are on the screen.
Before we close, I'd like to draw your attention to our Minutes for Ministries. This is the time when we share brief updates about our congregation's activities to help us stay engaged with our community beyond our Sunday service. This morning, I'd like to draw your attention to, for any newcomers with us today, you are invited to fill out a welcome card to help you get connected with us. And you can also talk with our welcome ambassador, Carol Evans, who's wearing a sunny gold sash and would love to meet you and answer any questions you may have. Anyone needing a caring presence this morning will find a compassionate listening ear with one of our lay pastoral care associates. You will recognize them by their sky blue sashes. I don't see one in the room. Carolyn Schwartz is our lay pastoral associate for this morning. And in the interest of time, rather than read announcements, I'd like to draw your attention to the back of our order of service. There are many important things happening, and I encourage you to take a look and respond when you can. These things are also available on our website, as well as our weekly newsletter and our website, muuf.org. And while we often open the mic for other announcements, in the interest of time, we're going to forego that.
One quick thing is that there was a Good Trouble Lives On rally in Morris Plains on the 17th.
A Good Trouble Lives On rally in Morris Plains on the 17th. At what time, Franklin?
It's 5:30, 7:30, but it's in the newsletter. 6 o'clock? It's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. See, yes.
They're both. There's one in Morris Plains and one in Morristown.
And also, okay,
So I draw your attention to Good Trouble Lives On.
2 rallies.
There are 2 rallies in Morris Plains as well as Morris Township. Thank you.
Just to let people know, the meditation is on the 3rd floor. People want to join. It was not listed there.
Oh, okay, so today.
At this time, we were quiet by 7.
So today at 11:30? What time, Alan?
11:30.
At 11:30 today, there will be a meditation group up on the 3rd floor, and in times like these, we need a quiet mind as much as possible. Thank you.
It is time now for us to bring our worship to a close. Though we extinguish our chalice flame, its light will continue to burn in our hearts. As we go out into our daily lives, I leave you with the words of Rebecca Savage. Our calling in the world. We've come to the end of our service, but not our calling in the world. We close our time together with the humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practices to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible when justice and equity ground us in all we do. May we go forth with the light and warmth of our chalice in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.
Thank you.